Hey, what's up, card fighters? Excuse the slight shaky cam. I'm gonna eventually figure out a way to turn the camera on without having that little bit of stiffness at the beginning of the video. But what's up, card fighters? This is BEOTCG here. Here deck profiling my second place local legend Vermillion deck profile. This is post the new promo that we got as D-BT13 was released. And this deck is unfortunately still only a rogue contender. This is one of those decks, man, that I feel like it's this close to being being like so good. It is this close to being so good. It needs like one or two new cards. I don't know what they could possibly do to help this deck, but it's like this close to being like a really good and strong contender in the current format at least. But I am gonna go over I'm going to go over what I played. I am going to make a note that this is just kind of like the first thing I came up with when I was trying to build this deck around the new promo. So it might not be the most optimal Vermillion list, but I feel like this is the Vermillion list that that just like worked for me, and I didn't really have any problems or issues with any of the cards that I played that day. So I'm just going to go over the Murakami engine cards first, and then we're just going to go from there. So 3 copies of Vermillion, Persona Ride, especially for your multi-attack turns, is very important. So you want to max out on that. He's also an Murakami. 4 copies of Eternal Thunderbolt. It's your prime pitch fodder for this deck. This deck does discard a lot off of the ride line and off of Vermillion's skill, which you do have quite a few cards that you don't mind discarding, and Eternal Thunderbolt just like one of your prime discard targets because you can just play it as a normal order from the drop zone. 4 copies of Dragonic Death Scythe. This is more like it's a beater slash I guess draw engine, just to help you draw into your pieces. More often than not, I just kind of like use it as a beater, and like I'll draw like maybe 1 card off of it in a game, unless I just don't have any of my multi-attack extenders, or like I don't have like basically the 2-card combo to enable my multi-attack. Then I'll just start trying to draw off of Death Scythe to see those cards basically. Let's see if this fits in the frame. It does. So this is one of your Soul Charge enablers of the deck. You do have multiple Soul Charge enablers, but the Grade 2 Thunderstorm Dragoon is one of your better ones because you generally want to use this in the early game. It's just play it down. You Soul Charge 1, it gives itself 5. The only restriction is you have to have a Murakami Vanguard, but you generally just want to use this on turn 2 or your first grade 3 turn, and then like intercept it away as soon as possible. Like what I found myself doing a lot in the tournament was that I would play this down, use it as a beater, a 15k beater on turn 2, which is just like great because it's hitting that those key number thresholds. And then when my opponent would attack me with their Vanguard like unboosted, I would just intercept with it and make a 1 to pass. Because generally you're gonna be moving it to the back row or calling on top of it, so it becomes like essentially a dead card after after turn 2. Sometimes not, but more often than not, yes. And then playing, this is what allows you to multi-attack Rising Phoenix. Basically, whenever a card is bound, either your card or your opponent's card, during your turn, of course, you could this is from the drop zone, you could Soul Blast 1 and call it to a rearguard circle. And then its secondary effect is you could pop it to give any unit a permanent 5k for the turn. And then this is the card that allows you to multi-attack with Phoenix. That's not gonna work. Let's just put this right here. 4 copies of Rough Core Hammer Dragon. Now, what Rough Core Hammer Dragon does, I am going to explain it because it is a new card. What Rough Core Hammer Dragon does is auto on rear guard. If you play a normal owner this turn, it gets 5k until the end of battle it attacked. And then at the end of that battle, CB1, draw a card and bind this unit. So this triggers your Rising Phoenix. So basically, you're able to trigger a bind during the battle phase to enable a Rising Phoenix multi-attack without player interaction. So you don't need cards on your opponent's board to be able to multi-attack with this deck. So that's like just really great. And then it has a bind zone ability that when you play a normal order for turn, if you have a Vermillion Vanguard that's only Murakami, and you don't have a rear guard that's the same name as this card, you could call it from, it's a free superior call from the bind zone. So basically, as long as you have at least one Rising Phoenix and one Rough Core Hammer Dragon, you always have the ability to be able to multi-attack with the Rising Phoenix. More often than not, I prefer to have 2 Rising Phoenixes, and what I'll usually do is I'll make a column out of them, use one Rising Phoenix to buff the other Rising Phoenix, and then I'll use Vermillion's CB1 effect to buff that Rising Phoenix, just because more often than not, if you don't like make it a column, then your multi-attack Rising Phoenix is going to be pretty weak, even on your Persona Ride turns. That's just like the one caveat of this deck, is it is able to make that 4th attack, which is very crucial because you're pitting your opponent for a damage on top of making an extra attack for the turn consistently. That it can just be enough to be able to like get you through and attack, even though the attack isn't the strongest. And then going on to like the non-engine cards of the deck. So because to superior call your Rising Phoenixes, it costs a soul, I don't prioritize Death Sight's ability. More often than not, I use him as a beater, and I just mainly focus all my Soul Blast on resolving Rising Phoenixes if I have them. Now, if I don't have Rising Phoenixes, then I'll try to resolve Death Sights as much as possible to try and get them. But if I do, then the soul is basically just for the bird. And what I do to help me enable that is I run 4 copies of Togashi Rashi. Now this is another discard enabler, so you're running like, which you include the Rising Phoenixes as discard enablers, but more often than not you really don't want to discard them, because it's kind of like, it's like a neg. It feels like a neg to discard them when you could just like hard play them, activate their effect, and then bring them back essentially. So you really just want to discard your Togashi Rashis, and you want to discard your Eternal Thunderbolts for your Vermillion's effect, for your ride line, even though technically you do have 12 discard fodders, and more often than not it's more like 8 discard fodders, because you really do want to commit these to board as early as possible, and even rush with them, just because if your opponent attacks into them, they're recursive, so it's basically like they're wasting an attack. They have no choice but to keep going face, which is exactly what you want, because Rough Core Hammer costs a counterblast. Vermillion's effect to be able to attack two rear guards in addition to the Vanguard also costs a counterblast. So you're roughly using like 2 CB a turn. There are instances where you're able to set up a double Rough Core Hammer Dragon and multi-attack like 5 times, or attack 5 times in one turn by superior calling 2 Phoenixes to the front row. You really only do that if you know it's like that's their best option to push for game. But more often than not, like I said, it's very much better to just set up the column, and it's also very resource intensive. It costs 3 CB to be able to do that play in one turn. 2 off of the Rough Core Hammer Dragons, and then 1 off of your Vermillion. And you, more often than not, you just don't want to do that. You want to like just be able to like conserve your counterblast and make your consistently mid-rangey strong 4 attacks. And then 4 perfect guards. Really not much to say here. 4 DPGs. In this format, I would take out 1 DPG for a Blitz Order PG. I just kind of like, I built this deck like the night before locals, and then I just basically threw it in my bag for work, and then went to locals after work. So I didn't put in a Blitz Order PG, but I would recommend that you do put in 1 Blitz Order PG, because this is the format to where Jeweled is running around. It's also really good against the Overdress deck because it gives triple drive. So yeah, it's just really good against those set strategies. Now, one major change that I did versus in my match videos that you will be seeing this week, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell so that you're able to see those. I'm playing 1 Dragon Empire OT. Originally, I was playing the blue OT that gives a crit plus 100 million, because I really just value that like 100 million critical trigger. Like, the adding a card is whatever, but I really value the 100 million critical trigger. But this is just very, it's a very, like, I wouldn't say it's a very important, but it's like a very convenient combo extender if you hit it, because Vermillion's on attack skill isn't once per turn. So you're able to basically like hit the Vanguard, hit 2 rear guards, and then if you hit the over trigger, you hit the Vanguard again and 2 more rear guards. So it can just basically help you clear the board, because to give the 5k to your 2 front row units off of Eternal Thunderbolt, your opponent's board has to be completely cleared. So that is just like one major change I did do. I changed it out for the Dragon Empire OT. It also makes your Vanguard just naturally more threatening. 3 draw triggers. I feel like this is in this deck, you just really do, you can benefit from fronts, but it's just very important that you do draw into your Phoenixes, and you do draw into your Rough Core Hammer Dragons, and you do draw into multiple Eternal Thunderbolts if you're just like using them strictly as discard fodder and then activating them from the drop zone, which they bind themselves active from the drop zone, so you can only use it like basically once, which I don't think that's an incorrect way to play the deck. I feel like with the way this format is like so warped around how like aggressive and punchy decks are now, I feel like it's almost always correct to like just hard pitch this from hand and then play it from the drop zone. And then 4 into soul crits. They never really came up, but you know, it's better to have them than not need them, to need them and not have them. So I am still playing the 4 into soul crits. This matters so much more now, since you're basically like your multi-attack hinges on how much soul you have. And more often than not, you're using your soul as an extension to get extra 5Ks to be able to like buff up your entire board. 4 vanilla crits. I heard 8 crit is good, so there's really nothing much to talk about there. And then 4 vanilla heals. This can be, if you really want it. Ooh, that glare is not nice. This can be, if you really wanted it, either the crit heal, like one or two of the crit heal, or like 1 or 2 of the restand heal. I feel like there's just like still like just enough decks in the format that basically don't do either restanding a unit or giving a unit a crit outside of critical triggers, that it ultimately is more of a hindrance than a help in those strategies. Unless your locals or major event you plan on going to is strictly just like those specific archetype meta decks, then I would just prefer the 15. The vanilla 15 has always been good for me. I've never lost a game just because I had the vanilla 15. I've lost a game because I've had the conditional 10k possibility of 25k shield. But that is my deck profile, guys. Don't forget, again, to like, comment, subscribe. We're so close to that 1k sub goal. We're like a little bit under 200 subs to get there. And yeah, we're going to be doing a big giveaway either the end of this year or the beginning of next year. We're going to be giving away a bunch of the channel playmats to subscribers. So yeah, you know, be looking forward to that. That is going to be happening in the very near future. And I'll catch you guys in the next one to get these match videos going. Later.